lot of these things will be things that are talking about like kind of what we do, what works well, and I'm going to be talking about, again, child behavior, but a lot of these are actually kind of relevant to other people. So some of these things are things we talked about before, but some of them have a little bit more detail. So people talk a lot about anxiety in PWS and how it's related to food. It is not always related to food. Sometimes it's not related to food at all. You guys probably often find that your kids are upset about schedules or things changing or things aren't like the way they thought it would be, that kind of stuff. And again, we find that many kids with PWS, this is kind of the most, the kind of earliest emerging feature is anxiety. So the food things kind of kick in, and then at some point they're worried about things, what's going to happen, what's going to happen, that kind of stuff. And again, we find that anxiety is probably one of the most common features of PWS, and it's also kind of diagnosed at the earliest age. Lots of questions, lots of need for reassurance, insistence on sameness, and again, shutting down when things don't happen the way they think. So some of the skills you need to work effectively with children with PWS, and again, also true of adults, listening skills. Listen to what they say, even the words they use. Sometimes tell you a lot about what's going on with them. A lot of times you need to be more emotionally mature than they are. We have a lot of people who often kind of get stuck with what, that's not what you said. And they're literally arguing with their kid. That never works. So, being more mature than they are, being patient, being creative, being flexible. I often tell people, I'm very flexible with them because they cannot be. So if they need me to accommodate or make things right, if they're having a problem with one of my RAs when we're doing testing and they're really upset, I'll sometimes come in there and I'll say, well, I can tell you're upset. Obviously things haven't gone the way you thought they would be, and I'm really sorry about that. I always apologize. Whatever it is, doesn't matter if it's their fault. I apologize. What do we need to do to make things right? What would work for you? And sometimes they'll kind of look at you and they're not really sure what would work for them. All they know is that what has happened so far has not worked for them. So we'll sometimes say, what if I have somebody else come test you? What if somebody else does this? And they'll sometimes, so changing the scenery or the person sometimes makes a huge difference. And sometimes I'll say, well, do you want to pick the person who does the next thing with you? And they'll like go, oh, I can pick them. Like, sure, anybody, because everyone has the same skill set, so you can have them do that. So again, we do those kinds of things because we know that ultimately they need to feel like they have some control over your life. They have so little control over the food issues, how things are done, all the kinds of restrictions and control issues. And again, they're trying to exert some level of control. So we try to let them have that. Also knowing that developing trust and long-term relationships. I had a young lady who parents were trying to get guardianship of her, and her IQ was over 70, actually way over 70. She was a pretty high-functioning girl. She'd done a lot of things that weren't so great. But what was interesting, her parents said they let the judge let her speak at her own, guardianship hearing. And of course, she's so articulate. And she's like, look at my parents. I mean, why are they doing this to me? And whatever. And the judge is feeling really kind of conflicted because she's obviously pretty smart. She says that she's very articulate and whatever else. And they had a letter from me, all the things that she had done that she, of course, did not disclose. And so as he's reading it, he's like, so did you actually go on the internet? Like, he's actually asked her, and she's like, yes, Your Honor. And it's like all these things. And again, I said, she's obviously very articulate, but she cannot take care of herself, and she can't make good decisions when it comes to health care or money or what's in her best interest. So it's in her best interest for her to have guardianship over to her parents so she can go into like a actual residential setting. And it was really funny. I saw her about a year later, and she's just so mad at me. She's like, I hate you. I go, I know, I'm so sorry. She said, you wrote that mean, mean letter about me. And I said, I know I did. I said, did I say anything that wasn't true? No. I said, I didn't want to write it, but I knew that that's what you needed to keep you safe. And I don't care about anything else except keeping you safe. And actually, at the end of that visit, we, patched our differences and all was good. Because again, she knew that I wasn't trying to be mean. And I said, I can understand why you're mad at me. I didn't say that what I did was right. I just said it needed to happen. And she's like, and again, she's smart enough to get that. So again, developing trust is really important. And realizing that long-term relationships, you can win the battle and lose the war. So just know, is this battle really important? Because if it's not, let it go. So parents are some of the biggest factors in kind of positive outcomes. This young man who we saw was really interesting, saw him at 9, weighed 209 pounds. And the mom's like, do you think he's overweight? Yeah. She said, well, his favorite foods are broccoli and salad, and she's going on and on. And it's like, I asked him, I said, what do you like to eat? He goes, pizza, macaroni and cheese, and barbecue ribs. And I said, so do you have that often? He goes, pretty much every day. And I was like, So, I told the mom, I said, he has a really bad diet, you guys don't lock up any food, blah, blah, blah. And I just, I kind of read her the riot. She was so mad at me. She didn't speak to me for almost almost a year, but she got her stuff together, got him on growth hormone, locked his food, got him involved in tons of like physical activities. He exercises, he's on teams, he does whatever. He lost so much weight that at 14 he was 166 pounds. So that's incredible. So parents really can do it. Is it easy? No. But nobody else can do it for you. So if I have parents who say, well, I just don't want him to be upset with me. Yeah, they're going to be upset with you, but it's really important that you actually do some of those things and realize that you're the biggest part of that. So people often ask, how much is PWS, and how much is parenting, and how much is environment? So again, it's kind of like this intersecting idea of parenting is a lot of it, environment is a lot of it. They are driven to do certain things by genetics, but that does not tell you the whole picture, because if it were true, everybody with PWS would be the same. They are not. So what is it that we have control over? We have some idea that environment makes a difference, parenting makes a difference, genetic makes a difference. We have to figure out what we can control and what we can't control. The people who often have like 5 or 6-year-olds will say, Elizabeth, my kid's doing this. So is that PWS or is that something else? I always tell them, it doesn't matter. What are you willing to live with? I had a kid who was 6 who had, mom could only turn off the bedroom lights. Dad could only, I mean, like literally she was bossing her parents around like she ran some dictatorship. And they were letting her do it. Well, she was so upset with us. Oh, God, you guys are suckers. And I said, it's this idea that she loves having that level of control. And I said, Mom, who was doing everything, who just looked so haggard and tired, said, I can only do this, and I can only dress her, and I can only... No. That's what she thinks, but that's not true. So I told her mom, I said, you're going to take a week off. You're going to go do something else without her. She was a mess for 2 days. But amazingly enough, her dad was able to get her dressed and was able, you just have to kind of let them know who's in charge. This idea is you have to figure out what you're willing to live with. So when people tell me that they're living with crazy, that's because you've let crazy inhabit your house. So don't let your kid tell you how things are going to run. If you're willing to live with that, it's amazing what he'll actually demand that you do. So again, you have to figure that out. And again, it's okay to say that this I'm okay with, but this I'm not. That's okay. There are things that would make me crazy that don't make you crazy. You kind of figure out what that is, and don't let other people tell you how that should work, because you know what you can live with. So again, I think it's important to know that. We have so much information, except, when you all got diagnosed and you went on the web or whatever else and you freaked yourselves out, and you're like, oh my God, this is the worst. I mean, even 25 years ago when I started this, I got offered a job working with people with PWS. I'd worked in a psych hospital, worked in a prison population. I'd worked in a public school. I had a lot of experiences, but I remember reading about PWS. I remember thinking, God, what is this? This sounds horrible. I mean, all the information was so negative, so bad, whatever else, and I realized within and I remember thinking, I can do this for a year, and then I'll find something else. 22, 23 years later, I really like this population. I find them to be challenging. They really make me a better person. My kids often say, you're nicer to them than you are to us. I would say I've used up all my patience with the people I saw with PWS. I have nothing left for you two. But it's this idea that they really do challenge you to do that. So there is a lot of information, but some of it's not true. So I tell people, know your kid, know what applies to them, and know what doesn't apply to them, because again, everything you read is not true. And some of the stuff that's true hasn't been true in many, many years. So it's really important to kind of take it with a grain of salt. So once you get diagnosed, what do you do next? I think it's finding out what your kid is like, knowing that there's this idea of delays in understanding. Kids with PWS understand a lot of things, but sometimes they don't understand really common things like how things work, social mores, that kind of stuff. And often when you explain things to them or tell them something, here's what they do. And nothing gets in there. So it's really important to kind of know that they often will tell us, I understand that, I know what you mean, but then their behavior says that I don't really understand that. So again, know that what they actually do understand, and know that age is not the most important predictor of kind of like where you are. If you're 13, but you're really not functioning like a 13-year-old, it's important to know that. It's important to let people who work with your kid know that. Because again, so many people with PWS, they talk a pretty good game, but they can't follow through. So they act like they're really savvy and they know a lot of stuff. Elizabeth, I know all about sex. I'm like, really? So tell me a little bit about that. And so, when they start, explaining things, you realize, you don't really know much of anything. So the idea is that they often say that, and they often will be inappropriate to classmates. They'll do things that are kind of sexual or suggestive or whatever else. but they often don't understand what that means and what the consequences to that are. So just understand that they're not always aware of how that works out. Compliance issues, not wanting to do things, avoiding things, being very demanding, it's also pretty common. Stubbornness. Again, when food issues start to emerge, we find that sometimes the anxiety ramps up. Because again, think about when you're really, really hungry. I mean, we don't have Prader-Willi, but when we're hungry, we can get a little irrational. Now think about being like that all the time. So if you're already anxious and then you start to have food issues, you start to feel more kind of unreasonable and hard to deal with. So again, odd repetitive behaviors. We have a number of people who rub, who touch, who do this with their hair. Hair pulling is not uncommon. Some of the other things like skin picking, again, they will pick places on their skin. They don't sometimes even are aware that they're doing it. Parents will often say that they're touching or making little places, and you'll say something and they'll look at you like, I'm not doing that. Yeah, you are. I see you right there. So those kinds of things are pretty common in there, and they don't feel pain the way that we do. So again, things that look like they would really hurt don't often hurt them. Like I have a young lady who was, the parent was so worried about her self-injuring, and she kept talking about it. She said when she gets really mad, she bangs her head. I go, it's like on a table. And she's like, no, like on a couch cushion. And I said, she knows how to get a reaction. And I like when she said she'd be really mad and she would literally be looking around the room for something soft that she could hurt herself on. Hurt herself. So the idea is that they will often make you get upset and worry, but they know how to kind of work you. So just know that they won't often hurt themselves. But emotional outbursts, shutting down, and avoidant behaviors. If you have a kid, especially school age, they are so good at avoiding things. I had a young lady who was in school all day, and the parents were talking about, she's not making any academic progress, and I talked to her school, and, well, she's in the bathroom a lot, and I'm like, how much is a lot? Well, I don't know, but it seems like she goes almost every class, and they're kind of going, and then we put all the pieces together and realize that 6 hours out of the day, she's in the bathroom. Nobody was aware, because she's in middle school, that she was doing this in every single classroom. And come to find out, she's not learning anything, because she has figured out, and nobody wants her to wet her pants, so she's got them figured out. So I said, no, we're going to put her on a schedule, man. Limit her water, limit her whatever, but we're going to put her on a schedule so she's not in the bathroom all day. What we found out is she was avoiding certain subjects that she didn't like very much. And again, we decided that if she did those kinds of things, she was not going to learn anything. So we kind of figure out what behaviors, what purposes those behaviors are serving. Because for so many people, I had a kid who was having problems and he was going to the school nurse all the time. And they said, yeah, when he has to be sent to the school nurse, they go, does he like the school nurse? They go, oh, she's just the sweetest lady. Yep, that's what he's doing. He's having some kind of behavior problem. He goes to the school nurse and he's sitting there right next to her desk, just talking like that. I said, he's not having to do any academics. I said, he's no dummy. So I said, have the nurse buzz by his room once a day, check in with him, hey, how you doing, whatever. And then if he has a problem, don't let him go to the school nurse. Figure out where the weak link is, because somebody is doing something to reinforce that behavior. When they like to talk about something, they like to talk about a lot. You have to limit how much time they talk about something. The subject, the amount of time. They like to do things until they're done. In school, that can be a problem because they can't stop. Like if they're doing spelling or whatever else and they're not done, they have a hard time moving on to the next thing. They'll say, but I've given them 20 minutes. It takes them so much longer to do homework and to write things and do whatever. So know that you can give them smaller chunks of things and let them finish it and be perfectionistic and everything else, versus this idea that you try to force them to move on. So again, they can't often move on unless they're done. So we can make it so it's smaller chunks of things. They can actually do well at it. Concrete reminders, schedules, timers, natural transitions. When this is done, I had a lady who said her kid kept missing the school bus because he couldn't get his shoes on, and I was like, yeah, so you take him to school. She's like, yeah, he missed the bus. What else am I going to do? And I was like, so you tell him you'll be glad to serve his breakfast as soon as his book bag is packed, his shoes are on, and everything's ready to go. Amazingly enough, he started being able to catch the bus because trust me, he was going to eat breakfast. So he got his shoes on, so we started doing that. And when people say my kid won't get dressed, it takes them forever. Even if they have to sleep in their school clothes, who cares? If you have to roll them out like a paratrooper to get them out of the door, you need to do that because they know how to work you when it comes to not doing what you want them to do. So find ways that there's a natural thing that they want at the end of that line so that they get those other things done. Tally sheets, how many times have you done that? How many times can you do that? They keep their own tallies. And again, those are ways to kind of help them move on when they perseverate or get stuck. Again, the questions, don't get caught up in answering the questions over and over. They'll often ask really odd questions. I tell people, they always ask us about like our children or our pets or whatever else. Again, they're really stuck on things like that. That's okay, but just know that you don't want them to get weird about any one subject. They can make people feel really uncomfortable, and people will often answer questions just to kind of, you know, they want to be nice, except what they don't realize is they're reinforcing the very behavior that you want to stop. And you know, it's cute when an 8-year-old hugs you, it's kind of creepy when an 18-year-old hugs you. So it's this idea of what's appropriate versus what's not, and you decide what that is and how to end it. We had a man whose son, when he was younger, they would do this cute thing where they'd hit each other on the bottom, and they would thought that was really cute, except he started hitting his teacher on the bottom and other people on the bottom, and he's a teenager. The dad goes, well, you know, I mean, and I go, no, I don't even want to hear your stupid excuse for why you thought this is okay. I said, they often don't understand that a behavior here is okay, but a behavior here is not okay. So just know that when you say something or let them do something at home that they cannot do at school, that becomes a problem. I had a young man who his mom was letting him urinate off the front porch because he lived out in the country. Well, he started going to the playground and, you know, peeing on the playground, and of course it was a huge big deal. I said, don't let him pee at home except in a toilet. She's like, no, I don't want to hear some, you know, rationalization. You can't let them do that because he doesn't get it. It's green, it's grass, it's like home. I mean, what's the difference? So you have to do that. Often you have to stop a behavior because they can't. So just know that it's not a moral defect, it's just the way that they're kind of made. So you have to help them stop certain behaviors. They really feel like they have to be right. If any of you have kids that are over the age of like 6, they have to be right. I let them be right even if it's ridiculous. So they'll say, well, you know, and I'll just look at them and go, oh, I totally understand. I mean, it could be a ridiculous thing. But here we have to do it this way. Oh, okay. People often get in a power struggle with them about certain things, like if they say things that are really ridiculous or obviously not true, they need to correct them, get them to say it the right way, get them to say something that's truthful. Don't do that. It doesn't matter. Some people just get so stuck on that, and they think they're teaching them something. You're not teaching them anything except how to make you crazy, because they will just outlast you every time. And again, they have to often have the last word. If you've ever had an argument with your kid with PWS, they will just keep on. And I like them. I don't care. Like I tell people, it is no skin off my nose. And they'll say, that's what I said. Walk away. Turn your back, walk away. Do not have to be a person. Because again, parents will often say, well, and I go, you're doing the same thing they're doing. Yeah, but no, but you're doing the same thing they're doing. Do not be that stubborn. Just let them have it. And again, let them be a graceful winner. If they are right, and sometimes they are, don't be the one who has to get the last word or has to say something. It's like, well, I said I was right or whatever else. Yeah, absolutely. When they lose, I have people who go, well, I wanted him to say an apology, and I wanted him to, you know. You can have that, but know that half the time it's going to be like, sorry. Sorry, you know, it feels really, you know, genuine, right? There's a lot of remorse there. So again, just know that that's okay. And I often say, I don't need them to say I'm sorry. I can have them say it, but they're often not sorry. They're like just going through the motions. So again, know what they're capable of, know what works, know what you're willing to live with. And again, if you can actually kind of reset it by the end of the day and have a good day the next day, it is worth it than having the last word or making them say that they're wrong or that they're sorry or whatever else. It's just better to move on. So as far as treatment implications, we know that people who have deletions are more likely to have skin picking, they're more likely to have tantrums, so with UPD, have higher verbal skills, and poor visual spatial functioning. The other thing people with UPD is they sometimes have worse social skills. So they sometimes aren't empathic, they sometimes don't understand how other people are feeling. We'll talk a little bit later about our social skills training, but trying to figure out like how people are feeling. We did a really cool, interesting study where we had people with PWS look at these pictures of faces and tell us how they were feeling. And it was amazing because so often they were wrong, worse than chance, like literally could not get it. And when we looked at eye tracking to see where they were looking at the mouth. How many times have you looked at somebody's mouth to figure out how they're feeling? You know, you look at their eyes, right? You weren't even looking in the right spot. So this idea is that they don't often know where they should be looking, what they should be focusing on. So we know that for people with UPD, they're more likely to have psychotic episodes, more likely to have autism. We don't know a ton about people with imprinting defects. Are a little bit rarer than other people, but we do know, I'm going to actually show some data later about imprinting defects actually have a similar profile to people with UPD. And again, we have a lot of people now that we've started looking at their data. They definitely have more psychiatric features, more anxiety, more depression. And again, because nobody sees more than a few people with that, it's like less than 5% of all people with PWS, we've actually got, I think now, 16 people with imprinting mutations, and they are very similar to people with UPD. So again, that's helpful for people who have that, because do I need to worry about this? Do I not need to worry about that? If everybody tells you they've never seen anybody with an imprinting mutation, that's not really helpful, right? And those people, you know, if you have a kid with imprinting mutations, most people know that those same parents have a 50-50 chance of having other kids with Prader-Willi syndrome. We used to always tell people, you have one, you're done. We found there were several families who had 3 kids with PWS, and I have actually 7 families with twins with PWS. So if you think you're dealing with a lot, we have people who are like, I have 2 kids with PWS, and they're exactly the same age. So the deal is there's a lot of things, the more people you see, you start to realize there's definitely some unusual things that are going on here. So oppositional behavior, get cooperation. We often have people who will say, what can we agree with? What can we do? You can actually get them to agree to some things. We even have things where we actually have them write out a contract, like if you're going to be doing something that you think is going to be a stressor to them, you know, what do they need from you? What will be helpful for them? And then we have write out the steps. Well, you know, and we do have adults with PWS who will tell us, if I go here and there's going to be food or there's going to be this activity, it's really going to stress me out. Like, they know that. Okay, so if we went there, is there an alternative activity that we could do? Is there another way we could do this? Again, things that we think of as being really fun can be really stressful. For anyone who has school-age kids, going on field trips, it's a 50-50 shot, right? Sometimes they're great, other times they flip out the day before or the morning of, and they don't get to go on the field trip. And parents are always so surprised, like, I don't know, we're going to the farm, or we're going to this cool aquarium, or whatever else, it's going to be great. Right, but it's also stressful because everything isn't planned out. The teacher's probably going, oh, it's going to, you know, yeah, we'll have lunch. And no, they need lots and lots of detail to know that it's going to be okay. So again, and you can often use past experiences that are similar to help them figure out what that would be like. You know, maybe they haven't gone to the aquarium, but it's a lot like going to the zoo. And you help them problem solve and put themselves in other people's shoes. Again, compromise where everybody gets a sum of what they want is a good thing. Negotiation is not. They will outlaw you every time when it comes to negotiation. They know exactly, like they can see the long-term picture that we can't always see. They are going to go, let's see, I'm going to concede on these 3 things because I know what I really want down the road, right? So you have to know that they are willing to negotiate, and they really can't play the long-term game. Everybody talks about like their IQ, their cognitive ability, and whatever else. It really underlies the fact that they have some incredible ability to read people, to know who's the weak link, and to know what the long-term game is. Like I said, they'll give in to so parents like, oh, this is great. They're really maturing. No, there's something under there that you don't know, that you haven't figured out yet, and they already know it. And again, know what you're willing to live with. No was spelled incorrectly. I apologize already for that. Aggressive behavior. When they begin agitated, read the body cues. People often tell me, we had a lot of teachers who I've gone to their classroom and they'll say, well, you know, I didn't know he was going to do that thing. I had a kid who kept throwing his shoe at his teacher. You know, he'd just be in the back of the class and all of a sudden he'd just lob his tennis shoe up in front of the classroom and the teacher, and he's hit her a couple times. He's actually a pretty good shot. And the teacher was so upset, she's like, I don't know what's his problem. Like, he's not upset about anything. And I was like, I bet he is. So I came there and watched him one day, and I was just like watching him. He's sitting at his desk, he's rocking. And greatly, what she was doing is she wasn't giving him any attention. Guess when he got attention? He threw that shoe, right? He's no dummy. He's sitting in the back doing what he's supposed to. Nobody said anything to him. And I said, constant verbal praise. Oh my gosh, Cole, look at you. You've got your spelling words almost done. I'm so excited. Walk by the class, positive attention when they're doing the right thing. And once they started doing those things and she didn't react, because the shoe throwing just became a way for him to get some attention. So again, if your kid is doing things to get attention, throwing shoes, having some kind of aggressive meltdown, if they're doing it to get attention from the teacher or other classmates, find a way for them to get their needs met. Often kids who are working in the classroom are getting all the attention. Realize they need some level of that during a day so that they can actually get their needs met. So I think it's really important for us to realize that sometimes behavior has a really important, it's telling us something if we're willing to kind of look at the signs. Keep your voice and face calm. I had a research assistant many years ago who now has kids of her own, but she was so funny. No matter what was happening, it's like I knew what was happening, but I love the parents, but often go, you'd hear all this like knocking and not good sounds. And the parents would come to the testing room, and I would always knock because I needed to let her know that we're outside the door. We hear the commotion inside, and I knock on the door. She'd come out, she'd go, "Hey." I go, "Hey, Krista, I was just checking in. How's everything going?" "Oh my gosh, Elizabeth, it's going great. We just have almost all the testing done. Probably need another maybe hour, and then we'll do lunch. But everything's going just fabulously." "Well, that is so great to know." Well, I could tell from her face, things are not going fabulously. But that parent would be like, "Oh, that's great, right?" And so with the parent and with the kid, she never let them get her frazzled, get her upset. It's so important to do that. And again, your natural reaction is to give them a reaction. You literally have to just act like it's no big deal. I tell people, it's just like you have to almost pretend to be somebody you're not. Because that kid really needs to know they can't frazzle you. When they know they get you, they keep upping the ante. So again, that's important. Again, I don't do a lot of eye contact or direct confrontation. I just turn my body towards them. When they're getting upset, turn my body to the side, I do something else. I go, "Well, obviously you're upset. I understand." I said, I'm just going to do this other thing, or I'm going to do something that doesn't require any attention, and I literally just look away. You have to know that when you are in their face, in their space, and you're like directly kind of in their like actual like space, they're going to get more upset. Again, voice, face. Make sure that you and other people are not close to them. Don't try to touch them. Don't try to physically intervene. I had a young man who wouldn't do his math homework, and his mom was calling me about it, and I've known him for a long time, and she said, the teacher kept telling him to do his homework, his math worksheet, and then eventually he's doing this. I said, "So what did she do? Did she try to physically make him do his math sheet?" She said, "Oh, yeah." I said, "Did he bite her or did he hit her?" She goes, "Oh, he did both." So she did. So she literally tried to take his hand and make, I'm like, "Why would you do that?" And he bit her, and she was so upset. I go, "I would have bitten you." I mean, that's just something, it's so disrespectful. I said, all you have to do is say, "Blake, oh my gosh, when you get that worksheet done, you're going to get iPad time. I mean, I hope you get it done in time." And maybe he'd be like, "I'm getting it all done." I said, you have to find a way to kind of nudge them without it feeling like it's a direct confrontation. And again, make sure that other people are safe. I have parents who worry about siblings and things like that. If something starts to escalate to a problem, you look at your kids and you say a word, or you have like a code word. They go to their rooms, they go somewhere safe. They don't have to physically witness things like that to be. It's okay for them not to be part of it, and it's okay for them to have a place that they go. Let them be responsible to some degree for their own safety, because there's nothing worse than trying to deal with a kid with PWS who's falling apart, siblings, classmates, whatever else. So let's let people know when there's a problem, you say something and everyone goes to their safe place. We want to make sure everybody's okay. Have a plan before things happen. You cannot do this on the fly. When people go, "Well, I'm just hoping it will all work out okay," it will not. So you have to have a plan of how that's going to be. Otherwise, if you do prevention versus this kind of constant kind of reaction, you find that things work so much better. Visual schedules, using them consistently is really the key. Again, if you use them some of the time or part of the time, whatever, your kid needs to know that there's a net to catch them when it comes to what they do, how they do it, what's going to happen next. And again, we find that so often these things, just like we're brushing your teeth, breaking things down into small tasks means that they'll actually be able to do everything, follow through, finish it. When they're in a vocational workshop, we do this a lot for tasks that need to be done. They need to know what it looks like to be completely done, what it looks like to be successful. So that's important for them. Again, I showed this one earlier, but getting ready for school, any activity that you need, that you find that you're getting stuck, these kinds of things work really well. I have parents who use them for a lot of things. You can phase them out if you don't need them, but it really does help them know what is expected of them, the order of things, and how to break it into small, manageable steps. If you tell your kid with PWS to clean up their room, they might move 3 books and a sweater, I'm done. If you say, you're going to put all the books on the bookshelf, you're going to make your bed, pull your sheet up, your cover, you literally have to break it down, because if you don't, they'll say, "I did what you asked. I cleaned up my room." This is true of typical teenagers too, but really true of people with PWS. Transitions are really hard for them, and we often think about school transitions, but it's also true of people who are transitioning from high school to kind of beyond, those kinds of things. But again, there's ways to make things helpful, visual cues, verbal cues, letting them know that this is going to happen and this is going to happen, and finding a way to kind of help soothe them. Again, it's stressful for them. We talk about little changes in the environment that are just normal changes. They are normal, but they're really stressful for them. So just know that if there's little changes that we don't sometimes are aware of, they're aware of them. So just know that it can do that. And again, make sure you don't get to the point where you're so rigid and repetitive and structured that they never have to transition or make any kinds of compromises. That is not going to be a good thing in the long run. Hard now, easy later, or easy now and hard later. People often say, oh, Elizabeth, I just don't want to deal with the conflict or whatever. Man, your kid knows that. They're like, yeah, mm-hmm. So again, if you are actually have firm rules about how you're going to do things and what's going to happen, your kid knows that. Yes, they'll have meltdowns. Yes, they'll be unhappy. All that is true. But once they start to realize that this is how things are going to go, and actually if I do throw a fit and do whatever and I don't get what I want, they will get that they can't rattle you. They need to know that. And I always tell people, I have to be a worthy opponent. Every day I have to kind of go, all right, I'm ready for this. Because they get, when you're weak, if you're sick, if you're tired, or if anything else is going on with you, they will totally test you. So just know that you really do have to make it structured from the front end, so that in the back end, they know that you really will make them accountable and hold them accountable. The idea of the emotional outlook you have to give, again, a bright affect, be confident, be capable, and you'll get the best out of your kid. I have people who say stuff like, well, he's just so this, or he's, he'll never be able to do that. Trust me, if you believe that, your kid's going to believe that. I have parents who say, I just don't know if he's ever going to have a school year where he doesn't attack his teacher or throw over all the desk. And I'm like, wow, what a high bar we've set. So I think it's important to know that those kinds of things should not be acceptable behavior. You understand when they happen, but they're not acceptable behavior. And there are parents whose kids do this on a frequent basis. The parent's just given up. They're like, what can I do, Elizabeth? He's got Prader-Willi syndrome. I'm like, right, but not everybody with Prader-Willi hits people or attacks people. Those things should not be acceptable behavior. It's okay to understand that sometimes they get overwhelmed and sometimes they lash out. But if it becomes a daily occurrence, and I had a woman who had a teenage son who was picking him up every time he had a behavior problem because that's what the school wanted. Anyone figure out what the common denominator here is? He got to spend the day with mom. I said, so let me ask you, when you pick up your kid from school, what do? Well, sometimes we go home, sometimes we go out to the mall. I'm like, well, I would want to go to the mall rather than go to school. And she didn't realize that she was inadvertently reinforcing the very thing. So if your kid is being called, if you're being called all the time to manage your kid's behavior, don't be part of that equation, because all it means is that I'm not taking, the teachers, nobody else has authority in any way, I'm taking care of it. You're not going to be here forever. And I have parents who had a set of almost 80-year-old parents who had a 50-year-old daughter with PWS, and they're talking to me about their daughter. She lives at home and blah, blah. And I go, so what's going to happen to Sheila when you guys aren't here anymore? And they're like, looking at each other, go, you're not 35. Surely you've thought of this. I'm like, well, we just kind of hope that you won't die. I mean, it's going to happen. And they're like, no, I just kind of, I'm like, no, you have 2 weeks. I'm calling you. You have 2 weeks to find a place in Michigan that has some level of, supervision, a group home, and they found a place. She moved. It was the best situation ever. She lost weight. She started doing horseback riding. She started teaching horseback riding to kids with autism. She ended up getting a dog. I mean, it was really like a dream come true. And they called me one day, and it was really funny because, they had my office number, just a lovely older couple. And they're talking to me, and I said, are you guys drunk? And they're like, no, we're getting on a cruise ship. It's our first vacation in 51 years. We're going on a trip without Sheila. And I go, oh my gosh, that's so great. And she goes, we're going on a cruise ship because they can't get a hold of us. And she goes, nice job. So we'll be in Cuba for 4 days. But they had a great time, and they even said, if we knew that this was going to happen and things were going to be so great, we would have done this 20 years ago. But everybody and she's the mom's so cute, she goes, Elizabeth, I just don't think anyone will love Sheila the way I love her. And I go, they won't. And they don't have to. If they take care of her, they meet her needs or whatever else. I said, you may be surprised. And she was surprised because, again, Sheila got so many of her needs met. Teaching writing to kids with autism, having a dog, she ended up getting a boyfriend at some point. I mean, things just really worked out for her. And my thought is know that even though you're scared of the unknown and what might happen, sometimes things are better than you can ever imagine. So just know that sometimes you have to let people do for your kid because you're not always going to be able to do it. Low expressed emotion, again, being very, not stern, because I tell people, I'm being very, no. If your tone of voice is stern or like judgmental, that is not going to work. So again, it's just like, no big deal, no whatever. Like I said, sometimes after they leave, I just kind of go, oh, I'm so exhausted. But know that while they're there, yeah, absolutely, we can definitely do that. Calm, confident. If you believe in yourself, they will believe in you. If you truly believe that you can't handle them, they will have you for lunch. So just know that they know if you're a worthy opponent, be one. Again, about negotiating, arguing, bargaining, manipulation. Know what you're willing to live with, and again, get it in writing. They will often give you a written, if they can't write it out, do you agree to this? Yes, let's write it down. Do you agree? Again, 3 things, no more than that. Have them sign it. And then when they start their problems, you go, it's really weird, but we talked about this and you signed this document. And weirdly enough, they kind of like when they actually agree to something for you to make them accountable, because they often will, wiggle out of, well, I didn't actually say that I was going to do. Well, here, there is no recourse here. We have it in writing. So again, right affect. Do these before the situation happens, not after it starts. Once things are starting to unravel, you cannot renegotiate. You're kind of done at that point. And again, don't engage in an argument. I had a woman whose grown daughter with PWS lived at home. They spent the whole day arguing. I mean, it must just have been awful. The mom said, she argues about how I do things, when I do things, what happens. I said, well, of course she is. She's living with her mom. I mean, I hate that. And she's like, yeah, but what else is she going to do? We're talking about that. She said, yeah, but, and she said, but I go, stop talking to her. What do you mean? Literally, look at her and go, I said, if you have to drink, take tranquilizers, I don't care. Do not engage. Just like the post office. She said that blank. And so the mom did it, and it was really funny. This girl's pretty high functioning. She's like, I'm going to call Adult Protective Services because you are verbally abusing me. And the mom would just look at her and go, 3 days. I mean, it almost killed the mom. It certainly almost killed the girl at PWS. And she stopped. And she said, things are so peaceful. I said, there's no reason for this to be so ugly and so unnecessary. So again, you have to be part of the solution. The mom kept kind of correcting her and don't do it. It doesn't make any difference. And again, if you can't control your emotion, they are never going to be able to control yours. So when you get mad at them, and don't get me wrong, every parent gets mad. If you have a kid with you have a certain level of rage all the time, and I get that. But just know that when you lose control or lose your cool, they got you. Because they're like, They're not able to kind of control themselves. And when you're really at your wit's end, that's when they really can kind of take you for a ride, because they know you don't have anything left. Even if you take your own time out, I've had parents that say, why don't you take time out? What do you mean? I didn't do anything wrong. Right. Doesn't have to be doing anything wrong. Go in the room and say, I'm going to take a break. I need a time out. I'm about to get upset and I don't want to do that. There's no benefit to that. Walk into the other room, just hang out for a few minutes. And sometimes the kid with probably is like speechless. They're like, that's okay. Change the paradigm so that you're the one in control. Otherwise, they're always going to try to get control. When they're overstimulated, they'll often shut down. If they're really frustrated, they'll shut down. Realize that shutting down is they're just too upset to give you any kind of response, or too angry, or too whatever. You can't make them comply. I've had parents who try to move an inert body. Don't do that. Try to find a way for them to kind of get it together. And again, sometimes it's really like your computer. They have to shut down, sleep for a little bit, cry for a little bit, whatever it is, and then they can get back together. Anticipate problems before so you can respond and not react. Reacting generally never works in your favor. So again, cueing, limits on topics, validating feelings and moving on, timeouts. I tell people, I just tell them taking a break, but being proactive and not reactive. Again, if you are using all these behavioral techniques and they're working fairly well, but you're still having issues, again, medication sometimes helps, especially SSRIs. And again, being connected. If your kid is not busy, this is just really true of adults. I have adults who are just sitting at home all day, and my parents are like, oh, they go on Facebook and they watch TV. And go, well, of course they're having problems. I mean, it's like that's no way to live. So the idea is we need to have them things where they're doing socially, vocationally, recreational. They have things to do. we're really big about applied behavior analysis in the States for autism, but not so much for PWS, but that same technique can work really well, where people take a behavior apart, figure out, like, is it aggressive behavior trying to get attention, or is it avoidance of the things they want to do, or whatever else. Sometimes people from the outside can see a problem in a very different way than you see it, because we assign, as parents and a lot of other people, motivations to things. Sometimes we're completely wrong, just like the kid who was going to the school nurse. Nobody thought he was doing it because he liked to hang out with the school nurse. Once we figured that out, the behavior stopped. If you never figure out what it is, the girl in the bathroom, if we don't figure out what the behavior's doing, we never figure out how to fix it. And again, we have people who deal with the same behavior over and over, and they always think of it in the same way. The kid's doing it to get on my nerves. I'm always like, they don't care about your nerves. They could care less how upset you are. They want to do it. There's something in it for them, so they're going to keep doing it. So this idea is that sometimes people from the outside can help us look at it in a whole different way. And again, ABA in the States is really, it's usually for people with autism, but you will say that some of the rigidity, some of the perseveration, some of the kind of lack of empathy, or things like that in PWS can be similar to people with autism. Those same things work for them. Let them calm down. If things are starting to unravel, you cannot make them do anything. And again, let them decide. When we'll just kind of disengage and go, oh, I have to you're upset, I'm going to just go do this. You just let me know. That usually works so much faster than me saying, when do you want to do that? When are we going to do that? When is this going to... Don't keep peppering them with questions. And again, don't rehash it. You don't have to get them to admit they were wrong. The teacher doesn't have to call it to their attention that they screwed up yesterday or they hit this other kid or whatever else. Just let it go. We want to return to balance. And again, you don't have to be right. Because right means that they're wrong, and they really can't deal with that. And again, they, they're ultimate grudge holders. I had a young lady who kept talking about somebody bullying her, and one of my RAs comes in there and she said, Elizabeth, you know that so-and-so said that this kid's bullying her. I'm really concerned about it. She went on and on. I said, she's 31 years old. She's been at school for 12 years. I go, this didn't happen like yesterday. This happened 10 years ago. She goes, wow. She has so much detail. A lot just happened. I go, they will hold a grudge. So again, they will talk about things that have happened. Don't let them get you down that road. You can even say, oh, that's really horrible, and move on.